So, among my many creative pursuits is taking toys and making them do stuff they weren't designed to do. Like the remote control doll on the left that crawls around on its hands, or a drone hat, or a brain that laughs when you tickle it. Follow along as we go repurposing a toy with my current project. Why toys dumps are filled with bright plastic and the heavy metals which get discarded by kids. A good way to save them from the landfill is to hit the bins at Goodwill. And I love that I don't know what is going to be there or what kind of thing that will inspire. It's kind of exciting, like Soviet shopping. This particular project started when I came across Mattel's MindFlex e-toy. It came with a headset that said it read EEGs, which raises or lowers a little styrofoam ball via a small fan with your mind. And I thought, what kind of music could I make with my mind? It's not that new, really. Many musicians have used brainwaves, from simply amplifying existing brain signals to instructing musicians on what to do live, and lots in between. For me, the object was to do it with toys and do it with what I could find or buy cheaply. So at first, I had to hack into the MindFlex headset. I found some online information of how to get data from the circuit board in it, but even so, it turns out that one electrode on a single position on the head is a pretty piss-poor way of trying to read all the weak signals that escape our skulls, which is why actual medical devices have caps with 10, even hundreds of electrodes on the head to capture meaningful data. I did get it to work, but after all, it's a toy, so it's pretty crude, but that was part of the challenge. And so next, I had to interpret the digital signals coming out of the MindFlex. A microcontroller will be its brain. I could do an entire PechaKucha on those tiny, almost computers, and the world of sensors and inputs and outputs and software and how they have opened up the maker and DIY world for me. But how am I going to create music? A lot of low-end toy keyboards use a chip called the VS1053B. Comes from China and has over 100 instrument sounds built in. They sound a little cheap, but it works, and it responds to simple electronic commands to produce notes called MIDI. MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and the standard for communication between electronic instruments, computers, and other equipment. It's been around since the 80s and is the kind of a word processor of music. It's not actually a language of sound, but of when and how notes get played. To connect all these different bits up, I use breadboarding, that white thing with all the holes in it. It temporarily connects electronic parts and modules and integrated circuits and all that to see if they work together electronically. And all that wiring can make for a real snarl of experimentation, which means I need to keep very detailed notes and photos before I solder and put it all together. Taking photos also helps with doing PechaKucha slideshows. After that, I need to find a box or some sort of container to put it all in. And that's when Goodwill came through for me again. A Fisher-Price toy laptop had a place for a big screen, a couple of buttons and menu selections, plus it was cheap. I mean, I could have put all the components into a cigar box, but where's the fun in that? And there's not a lot of extra space in modern e-toys. I wanted to keep the switches and buttons of the Fisher-Price toy working. I had to get creative and had several failures, but you tear it out and you start again. I actually bought a second one on eBay just for backup purposes. And once it was done, you'd think I'd have all those wires and electronics stuffed into the toy, I'd be finished, but there's software to consider. The big question is, how do I match up brainwave data with musical notes of MIDI? So in this next screenshot, the computer code is on the right and some diagnostic output on the left. I have a fair understanding of musical theory and a love of randomness, and a 20-second slide is not going to show all the immense amount of time and work spent programming with a lot of trial and error, but that's what I love. I started with complete random notes, beep, bop, boop, bop, bop, and then began using data from the headset to limit things like note length, note selection, key signatures, instruments, and like that. You start with the universe and remove everything that isn't what you want, kind of like they say about sculpture. I've decided to call it a cephalatone, a musical instrument driven by the user's brain waves. Is it actual music? Yeah, kinda. Is it a sound of someone's brain? No, but you can flex your mind to get it to change the sound, and maybe that's what our fingers do when we're playing a real instrument. And speaking of the real world, sometimes I annoy personal relationships by asking my dear friends to try contraptions out. It's very informative to get people's reactions and helps add usefulness, or whimsy in this case, to a particular project. And even though I finished mostly what I set out to do, I want to emphasize that being a maker, or even a mad toy scientist such as myself, is really about failure and learning from what you did, because everything is a healthy mix of failure and success. So what's next? Who knows? What toy or object will inspire me? Maybe the same EEG device could control a synthesizer rather than just a note player. I'd also like to do a performance reading of my poetry while my mind plays the background. By the way, the bottom right object I've created already. It's a ray gun that talks to you in haiku. Thank you and happy making. Okay, the Cephalatone is going to now play 3 separate 20-second selections of jazz, classical, and then wind chimes. This is how you attach it to your head. Thank you for listening.